soit qui sont dans notre cas, on peut les couper ou on peut les enfouir, les récupérer, d'avoir les choses au sol.
The Toronto crew is here. The room is filling up. Look at that.
From here?
Huh?
Who's going to sit there? I can sit here. Yes? Okay, I was just going to follow that. Oh, that's...
Yeah. Oh, nice. Tell them, don't worry about my live stream because you're the main live streamer. I'm just getting extra footage.
Oh, could you guys do this as far as the document? She's just getting it.
Yeah, don't worry about my stuff.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to our morning speakers. We have a final discussion before we're going to take a sort of lunch break in between the speaker sessions, so you can go check out the trade show and all of our great vendors. So now I'd like to welcome our speaker, David Magna, who is a former Canadian Food Inspection Agency inspector who spent over 15 years inside Canada's animal agriculture system. After leaving the industry, he became an animal rights advocate, speaker, organizer, and content creator dedicated to exposing the realities of animal exploitation and inspiring others to create change. It seems like a lot of people are interested in this discussion. So yeah, this one is going to be more of a fireside interview style, which we have these nice armchairs. No fire, you're going to have to imagine that part. But please join me in welcoming David to the stage. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you. Oh, is it?
There we go.
Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, thanks for joining us in Ottawa today. Hope your travel was good. All good. So your perspective on many of the issues that are permeating the talks here today is pretty unique, I think. Not many of us can say that we have up close and firsthand experience in the industries that industrialize our use of animals for food. So the first question I have for you is sort of broadly, how did you come to that experience working in the slaughterhouses?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, and I really appreciate everyone taking their time out of their day stopping in. I think it's a really important topic. I think it's a bit of a blind spot when it comes to our food system. A lot of people don't talk about it. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. And yeah, for me, it was essentially my grandparents. They immigrated from Portugal. You know, many other families, they look for a better life. They try moving to a different place. And my grandparents were given a slaughterhouse job. my aunt, my great aunt, my mom, my uncle also became an inspector. My grandfather eventually became an inspector. He saw how the workers were working, and he didn't really want to be killing or doing that type of work. So he thought, well, the inspectors, they look like they have a better job. He learned about pensions and benefits, and it was a federal job, so I'm sure a lot of people in the Ottawa region probably know about government jobs and the benefits of that. So as I grew up, I was surrounded by this environment and other inspectors and their kids. Actually, I grew up with their kids, and I think the writing was sort of on the wall for me that ultimately, eventually, I become an inspector myself. Those values were instilled in me, and it was sort of like the big person job that I was going to get at some point. How we do the other jobs, but then, you got to become an adult. So at 19, that was my first time walking into like a kill floor type slaughterhouse. So that's how it started for me.
And so did you ever work like on the kill floor or anything? Or you did it all?
Yeah, so my first day walking in there, I think they do it on purpose, but they brought me around to the other areas before they brought me to the live receiving. So that's where they bring in the trucks. So I was working at a place called Maple Lodge Farms, and they kill up to 500,000 chickens a day. And I just remember driving there and then getting out of the car. The smell, if you've been around a slaughterhouse, the smell is absolutely horrible. And so not really understanding maybe what I was getting into. I know I chose the job, but walking up to the office and then putting on the whites and then putting on a jacket and going down into this bay. And I just vividly remember, and it's in my head, it always will be, but just walking down to this kill floor area, this door opening, and this massive amount of heat coming to my face and feathers and dust, and I didn't really even have my mask on properly, and I remember sitting on my hand and looking at it, and it looked like there was feces. And so I remember wiping my hand, but just looking to my left and seeing this truck. And in the truck, it looked like I saw a head, but I couldn't be sure because I wasn't close enough. But as I went down the stairs and I hear this ba-boom, ba-boom sound, and I look over and there's a chicken, their head is frozen to a crate. And so it's almost like I froze in time, and I still see that image almost every day. And then I see more heads frozen, and I look to my left beyond that, and there's people throwing birds on these shackles, these lines, yanking them out. You hear the birds chirping. The smell is unbelievable. And yeah, like at that moment, you don't want to be there, but I'm thinking my grandfather helped me get the job. My family's invested in this. I got to be invested in it. And I had to shut off, and I think that's kind of the era that I grew up in as well, is you don't really share your feelings. And I mentioned it to the inspector about the head being frozen, but nothing really happened from there.
And how old were you this first day?
Yeah, I was 19.
Pretty young.
Yeah, pretty.
And so how did you manage to sort of turn that off and continue working?
Well, like I say it often, like a piece of you leaves you when you work in that industry. You can't not walk out of those places and be a normal person, So yeah, I mean, that's sort of what happens. You have to de-individualize the animals. During training, I remember there's a place called Conestoga Meats. They put pigs into gas chambers, if you didn't know. And it burns their skin, their eyes, and their entire bodies. And before that, I wasn't really aware, but I remember walking up and a piglet turned towards me. And my first reaction is like anybody else, you reach down. And then I had to stop because I had to remember I was being trained on how to kill or watch people kill these animals. And so you walk into the kill area and you hear screams. They're going into a gas chamber, they're lowered, they fall out and they're lifeless, and some are twitching, and it's horrific, it's awful. So you have to de-individualize them, and you have to remove some of yourself from that experience. Yeah.
And over the course of your career, did you ever have to train others in the role as well?
Yeah, I think like a few others would have come behind me, but I was they called me the kid because I was like the youngest one there, so I sort of followed into their footsteps more or less. But you have to think like maybe I was in the frame of welfare, so I thought maybe the conditions could be better. And I was mentioning earlier that I was hearing this ba-boom noise. Well, this was crates falling on a conveyor belt. They were throwing the crates down and the chickens are shaking. So in a welfarist way, we asked them to do it with 2 employees and set down the crate. You know, it's little things like that. But that's really the furthest that I could go as an inspector, because the more you start to realize that these jobs are really just token positions at the end of the day.
So when you say that it was a token position, you would go and see things but not really be able to make changes, is that what you mean?
Yeah, 100%. I documented hundreds, if not more, what they call non-compliances. So when you would see a chicken's wing, you know, fall, like basically not a part of their body, or scalding tank, how many birds have gone through a scalding tank. You would bring that up to your supervisor, and nothing really gets done about it. I've been to court 2 times, and one time there was, I think it was over 24,000 birds that came in on a hot day, and the majority of them died due to heart attacks because of the heat. And if you can imagine, people were standing on bodies and trying to find the live ones just so they could hang them on the line. No one got persecuted for that. No one got charged for that because they couldn't determine who was at fault, the farmer, the transporter, or the processor, so none of them were at fault.
And so what was that like, having this job where ostensibly you're there to make sure things happen in a sort of welfarist way, but when you bring things up, nothing happens?
Well, I think like you try to get some things done in a welfare way, but yeah, I think you just feel defeated. I think you try as much as you can through unions or through, I know there's a couple times where I kind of emailed like the entire Ontario or Canada about these things, and I got reprimanded for it, but at least a minister or somebody had to talk about it. So there was some clever ways to work around it, but again, it's more or less to make people feel good about. And I think it was Kira was mentioning earlier about the greenwashing, these claims like, you know, humane and all this. The job that I had primarily was animal transport. It used to be called humane transport. And so if you can imagine why they would change that name from humane transport to animal transport, it's because they don't want to talk about humane or welfare or any of these terms, because it's much easier to make people think that some sort of body's watching over this.
So you mentioned that you had these feelings of this is terrible when you saw what was happening to the animals, and you had to compartmentalize and sort of depersonalize the animals. Did any of those feelings change over time? Or was there some sort of like other coping mechanisms when faced with violence like that every day?
Yeah, well, you have to, like, again, you have to shut off. A number of people turn to drugs, alcohol. Instances around slaughterhouses of violent crime increases. For myself, I turned to alcohol for several years. I didn't even know that I was coping that way until years later, but yeah, you have to imagine yourself somewhere else. Like I remember being on the line where I would imagine I was on a beach somewhere, you know, and I've heard this time and time again from other workers. Yeah, you have to just become a different person, and you lose out on relationships, you lose out on wanting to be around people. This is the hardest thing I've probably done to date, is speaking to all of you right now, you know, but that first chicken that I saw frozen to the crate, I don't have a choice. I have to be up here. I have to talk about it.
That's the one that's still in your mind.
Yeah. Flashbacks, you get night terrors. There's been times where I've woken up on the floor in my room. Yeah.
That's tough. So obviously lots of psychological effects of this work that you've had, and your colleagues too, I imagine. What about physical demands of the job? I've read a few books and things about slaughterhouse work, and it sounds like it's pretty grueling in those environments. So did you or your colleagues experience physical consequences of the work?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at hearing loss, I might have a bit of it now. Seeing, obviously, you're watching these high-speed lines, and a lot of people won't have a break. So if you can imagine having to watch 3 birds per second go by you and not have a break for 2.5 hours. And that wasn't even the inspectors. The inspectors get a break every half an hour. So these marginalized, so a lot of people don't know, but it's usually generally marginalized communities that are working these jobs. It's not everyday Canadians that are going to want to work in a slaughterhouse. I kind of say, if you'd imagine your child came up to you and said, "Mom, Dad, I want to work in one of these places," you definitely probably like seek therapy for them. But yeah, we're using vulnerable people to work in these places for things that we would never do or comprehend. And sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit.
I was asking about physical effects.
Yeah, physical effects. So yeah, carpal tunnel is huge. Shoulder issues. You look at people cutting off limbs. I saw a man crush his arm inside machinery. And this is common, and the thing is, a lot of workers will not report if they've suffered an injury because they're worried that they're going to lose the job, maybe even lose their citizenship or something like that.
Because they're marginalized already.
Yes,
so
of
it's hard for them.
course. So the other thing is people contract pathogens. If you look up some of the data, 1 in 6 Americans will contract a pathogen, E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter. Maybe some people in the room have contracted, and maybe you don't even know. So that has really bad health consequences. I myself contracted Campylobacter and E. coli at different times. About a month after I contracted them, I had a pulmonary embolism, so a blood clot in my lung. And for a year and a bit, I had to go get needles in my stomach and blood work. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm just mentioning my story. Can you imagine not feeling like you have the place to be able to say something? And you have these temporary foreign worker programs that bring in people, and if they can't do the job, they're just gonna send them away.
Send them back. Okay, heavy stuff. So this is obviously very difficult for you and your other colleagues, but at some point there was a turning point for you. You were in a pretty dark place at a certain point in time, but you wouldn't be here speaking today if you were still working in that environment. So maybe you could tell us a bit about what changed for you, what sort of sparked the beginning of the end of this industry for you.
Yeah, so I worked in slaughterhouses for about 6 to 8 years. I was removed from the location that I was at because I was having respiratory problems on top of the other stuff. And so eventually I ended up working my way back to a place called Animal Health, and they knew my experience of these prosecutions or lack of prosecutions. And so my job or my role was to review these files, inspectors' notes that would come in, and these potential cases that would go to court. So I saw pictures.
So this was still in the inspector agency?
Yeah, I was still with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and Animal Health. And so I remember my first day, the person training me said, do not look at the pictures of the videos. Just make sure the inspector's notes are there, close the file and put it on our supervisor's desk, and they can determine if it's gonna go to court. And I thought, well, my job is to review the videos and footage and make sure notes correspond to that. And she had told me the person doing this job prior, she was off on stress leave because of what she saw. And so needless to say, there's filing cabinets full of these cases that, again, I don't think anything's being done about. But I saw one in particular that stood out, was a cow on a slaughterhouse truck covered in feces. Her head was somewhat crushed, and she had given birth and the baby as well. It was no longer, and it was from that moment I was like, I can't do this anymore. I went home to my partner that night, and I just said I don't want to eat animals or be a part of it. I didn't know what veganism was. I didn't know what health consequences I might have as a result. I just didn't care. I was just fed up. I just couldn't see this anymore and be basically making money off of what I'm seeing here. And so I changed that day, and yeah.
And was it like you quit immediately, or did it take some time to transition out?
Yeah, I don't know how I just thought it was a diet at that point. I thought, okay, well, as long as I'm not eating this, I just didn't, a little bit slow, I guess. But I just thought, okay, I'll do my part. And when I did move out of the agency, it was about a few months after, maybe 5 months after. I worked in another agency after that, and I met some people that were vegan. And they explained to me a little bit more about it, and that's sort of what started my path, I guess you could say, into animal rights.
Okay. And when you left the industry, did that affect your relationship with your family at all?
Yeah, so it's funny because I became passionate about it, and my dad didn't work in the industry, nor did my brother. And so they seemed to think it was more of a diet thing. They didn't see the emphasis on it. But my mom, she had worked in a slaughterhouse. She had actually taken lives, and we have similar dreams, actually, of us being in a crate. We came to that conclusion one night, and yeah, she gets it. She's almost there. My aunt seems to get it. My uncle retired recently as an inspector. He doesn't see a problem with it, but again, he's made his whole career off working there, so.
But it sounds like you still have a good relationship with your family members.
Yeah, I would say so. I think they understand. Maybe they're just too afraid to change, because if you think about what that means to change, you got to look at necessity, right? And if it's necessary, if it's not necessary, then what does that say about what you're participating in?
So since leaving the industry, you dedicated your time to advocating for animals. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about that whole experience and the kinds of work that you do for those of us who may not know your content.
Yeah, sure. So again, it took me a little bit of time to get into advocacy because of my background. I thought, okay, if I go to this vigil, which is when you go to a slaughterhouse and you see the animals go in and you sort of pay your respects, I'm gonna get my ass kicked by these crazy vegans, right? Of course, that's gonna happen. And so I didn't say anything at first, but then I got to know them a little bit, and I told them what I had been a part of, and they welcomed me. They said it's a wonderful story and you should share it. And yeah, so I started there. I started doing some street advocacy for Anonymous for the Voiceless at my start. I'm an ambassador for We the Free now. And I do a lot of online live content on YouTube, something called Project Livestream. So yeah, I dedicate my time to that.
And do you think that the work that you're doing now for animals has helped in some way to heal the negative effects that we talked about earlier for you personally?
Yeah, it's something my therapist said to do is the more you talk about it, the more you can heal. One of the things that she said to me that really stuck out was that everything that's happened is in the past. No one's suffering in the past. But what you do today can really make the change that you want to see, and she encourages me to speak out because that's helpful.
And since you started speaking out about this kind of stuff, becoming an advocate for farmed animals, have you seen any changes that give you hope for the future?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we just look at Vegfest, for example, right? 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when I went vegan, like you go into the grocery store and you were hoping you could find something, right? And now look, nowadays it's crazy, right? The knowledge and even the last few years, like doing events, street outreach, people didn't sometimes know what vegan was, or they didn't have a cousin or something, and now almost everybody knows. So we had a young woman at our event on Sunday, We the Free event. She watched, which I would encourage all of you to check out, the We the Free 3-minute movie challenge. She watched it, she was in tears, and the next day she came to a York University primate protest. So it really does change. Sometimes you just need to be a bouncing board for people to realize that change is inevitable, and you can be a part of that.
Everybody's got there's a spark that gets you, and then sometimes it takes a while to permeate, and sometimes it's instant, but I think that's been there for all of us who've made the change. So, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. How can people get involved with this type of work if they're interested?
Yeah, of course we have a number of groups here, Anonymous, we have We the Free, we have lawyers, we have AEL, you know, there's the plant-based treaty, there's a plethora of them. You just gotta search for it, and the way I kind of say it is one 24-hour period. If you can put that one day in the whole entire year aside and put at least 2 hours a month towards advocacy, we could, like, imagine everybody here doing that. We could see a huge dramatic change. So please get active for the animals. It's us in the room. We're the ones fighting for them, so we need to be their voice, and they need our help.
Okay, well, I think we are going to wrap up for time. We do have time for questions after this, but thank you so much for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. It shows that anyone, even someone who grew up where slaughterhouse work was expected and normalized, can change their perspective and can do this kind of work that more aligns with their values. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure the audience agrees that this was a worthwhile. So we will open it up to questions. I think we've got about 10 to 15 minutes. If we go over that, I think you said people could approach you outside for more questions.
Yeah.
My microphone is going to be the one that's getting passed around, and then you can use that one to answer the questions. But thanks again so much.
Great.
Has anyone talked to you about how they might be able to do a Freedom of Information request to get those videos that you were talking about released?
Yeah, it's a very good question. If you didn't hear, it's about getting Freedom of Information requests. You know, we've done a number of them with animal justice. Oftentimes, these companies have been able to get away with the threat of their own business or their own security on the line. So oftentimes we can't get all the information that we're looking for. But I would encourage you to speak to AEL. They're here today, and also Animal Justice. Or you reach out to myself. I could try to point you in the right direction, but it is a very difficult process. Sometimes we've done them and we don't receive anything, but we have to go back. But I agree it's an important process, and I've helped out with some of them because I can understand the language sometimes. So definitely feel free to reach out to me.
I would expect that you've read Every 12 Seconds by Timothy Packrat. If you have, just paint an accurate picture of what a slaughterhouse is like.
I haven't had the chance to see that. In fact, I've been given some books to read, but I just can't put myself to watch or look at that. But I think if you were all to paint a picture of whatever you could imagine, times that by maybe 100, it is absolutely devastating to go into one of these places.
Yes, and thank you for your comments today. It's really doing great work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, hey. First of all, thank you for doing this talk. It's very important that people hear your perspective. As somebody who is inside the animal exploitation industry, I guess this is a two-part question. Could you speak a little bit about like the culture of the workers there, like the day-to-day, kind of like the attitude that they have? And then also I wanted to know, as somebody who left the industry, do you have contact with people like still in the industry today, or do you come across people that left? And how do we convince those people? You said that like you got to shut yourself off. How do we turn them back on?
It's a really, really great question. So definitely the workers, I don't want to phrase it like they're zombies, but it's almost like everybody understands the code. It's just you're kind of, the energy's low. You feel like at a loss, like you just have to get through the day. And so the workers, like some of them you can't even have a conversation with. You know, their heads are down, you know, they've got blood all over them. So, you know, there's certain workers that will be doing the killing. They're the ones that really are the ones that you generally can't have a conversation with. That, you know, you can smell alcohol in their breath. You can definitely tell that people are high, or maybe their mental capacity isn't there. So it's generally just obviously like not a great, like think of your worst day, and then that's sort of how it is all the time. It just doesn't end. It's like this endless cycle. And then your second question, I've come across many people that have worked in it. And in fact, as you were asking the question, there was someone who came to an event. They were off to the side, and you know, you have a little bit of security culture. You got to be careful sometimes. And I went up to the gentleman, and he had worked in Alberta on a kill floor when he was 16, and it was a summer job. And this boy that's now a man, you know, he's been suffering his entire life with addictions and thoughts of, you know, taking their own, which is pretty common for a lot of workers. And so I think it was just a matter of him being able to speak to somebody that had worked in the industry. So he's sort of been in and out. You know, he likes comments and stuff like that. I think he feels a little bit not better, but at least he has someone that he can reach out to talk to. I would encourage therapy for anybody. You might think that you've got it all covered, but you don't. You really don't know. And so yeah, there's quite a few people that have reached out. In fact, since we started going live at slaughterhouses on YouTube, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 people cross the line. Even some of them are now doing live streams as vegan activists because of the things they saw. So love that, yeah. And so there's encouragement there, and there's hope, yeah.
You do amazing work, David. Can you remind us your social media handles?
Yeah, my social media handle, you might get a kick out of it. So it's the 40-year-old vegan. So if you ever want to check out my Instagram, my YouTube, I'm on Facebook as well. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help, and we have a really good community, and we really just want to continue to grow it. Many of us are here because we're like-minded thinkers, and we want to teach you how to become advocates and move forward and change the world for the better. Thank you, Jen.
Yes, I'm just wondering how your work, both before and now, is being affected by these ag-gag laws that they brought in.
Yeah, so the question was about the ag-gag laws. Originally, when these laws were coming, obviously, these are bills that are meant to silence us. If someone works for a company and they see wrongdoing, they can actually be charged on one of these farms. Can you imagine? And so it's really detrimental. I know Animal Justice has been fighting Bill 156, for example. We actually did a Meet the Victims action in Kitchener a few years ago to spread awareness about what was happening, because this goes against our fundamental freedoms of expression to be able to know what's happening. And so I would encourage everybody to really speak with Animal Justice, or help them spread the message out when they go to the Supreme Court to fight this bill, and then talk to your neighbors and your friends about it. I mean, this can translate into other industries. I don't think a lot of people realize that it can move from one spot to another. And again, the Charter of Freedom and Expression is there for us, right? We're there, and we need to advocate for it. We need to fight and defend it. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we can wrap up, but David has said he's happy to be approached out in the hall or whatever if you'd rather ask a question one-on-one. Thank you so much again for sharing your unique experience. It's really inspiring to see stories like this, and we appreciate you taking the time to come here. We're gonna take a bit of a break now so you guys can check out the trade show, get some delicious food. There's entertainment on the other side, there's some art, and then we'll be back here, I think at 1:45, is that right? I didn't bring that part over. Just double checking. The next talk time. 1:40. So we'll see you at 1:40. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, what a great job. So what's your handle?
My handle? I am from
There you go. So
Sorry,
check.
guys, Jenny was just talking to me. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for being here.
Oh my God, David, you did it. Well done.
David,
That was
tell us,
amazing.
How do you feel?
I feel like it's good.
Green hearts in the chat for David, guys. You're getting a lot of.
Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends. Let's go get active too.
Awesome.
So great.
Okay, so oh hey, Alicia's watching.
So
Alicia, thank you so much. Alicia came to our project Lifetime too, and she immediately spoke up for the animals. So
Incredible. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to sign out, and thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.